Good evening, and thank you for the head pats redeem Jigstraw before stream started properly. And congratulations on being first. So yeah, I've been sitting here kind of like staring at this title screen, and it brought me some small amount of joy to imagine that the camera was actually fixed in place and that the island was rotating. It does look like the introductory cutscene isn't going to play unless I idle on the title screen. This paradise is Yoshi's Island, where all the Yoshis live. They are all in an uproar over the baby that fell from the sky. What I'll probably do, actually, is just... reset the console. And we can just watch that opening scroll, because it actually had plot a long, long time ago. This is a story about baby Mario and Yoshi. A stork hurries across the dusky pre-dawn sky. In his bill, he supports a pair of twins. Which is odd, because they look nothing alike. Suddenly, a shadow appears in a gap between the clouds, and races towards the stork with blinding speed. Screech! I will say already, the babies are mine! I will say the graphics are already way better than I kind of think of as what the Super Nintendo is capable of. Also, wow! Bird got rotated. Snatching only one baby, the creature vanishes into the darkness from whence it came. Oh, see, now the bird is standing still. The second baby falls undetected towards the open sea, where it will almost assuredly die on impact. Oh no! Meanwhile, here is Yoshi's Island, home to all Yoshis. It is a lovely day, and Yoshi is taking a walk. Huh? Yoshi died instantly. Cranial hemorrhage. Suddenly, a baby drops in onto his back. The baby seems to be fine. This is very fortunate. Yoshi's got an expression like, oh my god, what do I do with this? Well, something else to up with the baby. I like how Yoshi just immediately goes back to staring, like, what do I do with this? Let's take a peek. It looks like a map. Maybe the stork was using it? But Yoshi can't figure it out. This is because Yoshi has a concussion. Yoshi decides to talk to his friends. Ack. Kamek, the evil Magic Koopa, and kidnapper of the baby, quickly dispatches his toadies. Incorrect, those were also Magic Koopas. Toadies belong to Princess Peach. When he discovers that he missed the other baby. Yoshi heads leisurely back to the other Yoshis, unaware of the danger at hand. Kamek's forces are actively searching the island. Will these two children ever reach their parents safely? This paradise is Yoshi's Island, where all the Yoshis live. It would amuse me greatly if one of them just, like, immediately ate Mario. And they were like, oh, well, that solves that. They are all in an uproar over the baby that fell from the sky. Wait, the baby seems to know where he wants to go. The bond between the twins informs each of them where the other one is. The Yoshis decide to carry the baby to his destination via a relay system. Now begins a new adventure for the Yoshis and Baby Mario. So I guess, like, I'm passing Mario between Yoshi to Yoshi in each level. Welcome to Yoshi's Island. If Baby Mario falls off Yoshi's back, the countdown timer will begin. When it reaches 0, Kamex toadies will kidnap Baby Mario. The more stars you collect, the safer you are. The countdown timer will slowly count back up to 10. Complete a stage by passing Baby Mario to the next Yoshi. Okay, so A is like a throw, B is like a jump. And then, like, Y is consume. I appear to have something of a double jump. Yoshi has a bit of Yoshi has a bit of momentum. Hovering jump. By holding B down, you can hover in the air for a short time. Make the extra effort. Number 1, patient. Number 2, hasty. How do I set it to hasty? Hasty sounds more like me. Lock with R. One. Make eggs, throw eggs. This is gonna take some getting used to. Making eggs. Press down. Grab an enemy with Y, then press down to make an egg. Now try throwing the egg, press A. So it's kind of like how it works in Smash Brothers. Special flower. Gather 5 for a 1-up. They add to your point total. They also add flowers to the gold ring roulette. Get wrecked, nerd. Throwing eggs. Press and hold A and the aiming cursor will begin to move. Release A to throw the egg. When you find question mark, hit it with an egg. Cool stuff will happen. To cancel the throw, press down on the D-pad. Yeah, that was really slick, but it was also an accident. Top rock is a useful object. Push it and it will roll, bowling over your enemies. If it gets stuck, stand on one edge and it will start rolling. Is this a game where I am at all rewarded for collecting everything in a stage? I'm also seeing that these coins are turning red when I'm touching them. Is that important? You can see collection on pause, there are extra stages for it. Oh, I see. So 20 coins, 30 stars, 5 flowers. Nice. Now is that a threshold, or is that, oops, or is that just everything in the stage? Oh, looks like they're different thresholds. $100 on every stage, good to know. Also, I see that eggs only have a certain number of bounces in them. You run a nice Slay the Spire run once you started? What's that noise? Sounded like a buzzsaw. Slay the Spire, which class were you playing? I remember quite enjoying playing the Deviant, the robot guy. Ironclad? Nice. Oops. Then I started getting into modding it, and like adding custom classes that don't exist in the base game. I guess the buzzsaw sound must be this like rotating platform thing. In each level, 20 red coins are hidden among the yellow ones. They each add 1 point to your score. Grab Baby Mario, jump or even use your tongue to touch him. Throw eggs at him. If the timer drops to 0, he will be kidnapped. Oh, it's that sound effect. I've heard horror stories about that sound effect. Where, like, some people will deliberately, like, cause bad things to happen to Baby Mario as vengeance for making people listen to that noise. Anyway, Baby has been relayed. I do think it's kind of cool how they show you your score. So you can, like, go back and, like, try harder, I guess. This control scheme is still taking some getting used to. I'm used to jump and that being on different buttons. Not sure if that's a sign or if that's something else. Will this kill me or is it a secret passage? Let's find out. That was death. But you never know until you try. Curiosity killed the Yoshi. These things happen. This is the middle ring for the level. You may continue from here. Do you remember? Press Y and down to make an egg. Press A to throw an egg. This definitely would have blown my mind if I played this as a kid. Especially in comparison to, like, Super Mario World 1. We do a little, tunneling. Middle ring. I've seen a few memes where it'll be like the Yoshi's Island theme song as like the backing track to somebody doing something. What? Did I just double jump? We take this? But yeah, basically, I've seen a few memes where it's like Yoshi's Island theme, and then like right as it does the wailing bit there, like whoever is the focus of the meme like pretends to scream in pain. That bit right there, yeah. Oh, 4 out of 5 isn't that? Bonus challenge. So if I want to upgrade my score, do I have to upgrade everything at once? Or does it like take my best of all attempts? Like if I come back and redo this stage, do I have to get all 30 stars if I wanted to get like 100, let's say? Single run? Gotcha. Luckily, time doesn't seem to be a factor. Scratch and match, 1-up chance. Scratch 3 boxes, uncover Marios to gain 1-ups. Scratch on. 3 toadies is nothing, 1 Mario is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 5. And it is RNG. That is a toady. That is a Mario. I like how they're using a coin for it. Oh, you only get to pull 3 total. Good to know. The Cave of Chomp Rock. My out-of-bounds secret sense was tingling. Oh no. It was tingling, but it was clearly not the sense I had to be listening to. If I get on top of that, will Yoshi ride it? No, but yes. Pound the ground. Press down while in the air. Yoshi will pound the ground. This has many uses and it rocks. If only there was a catchier name for that. Oh, this soundtrack is reminding me a bit of Fillmore from ActRaiser. A game that I very much need to play on stream at some point. There are 2 controller configurations for egg throwing. Would you like to switch? No. I already did. It'd be interesting to see It'd be interesting to see a casual run of ActRaiser. It's a very, very fun game. I like it quite a lot. Hello. Do you require egg? I'll take that as a no. It makes me a little sad, because, like, ActRaiser has a sequel, except the sequel got rid of all the things that made ActRaiser stand out and be unique. Because it's a combination of, like, action game and, like, RTS/management sim type thing. It's very unique and very fun. And then in the sequel they just got rid of the non-action bits. So they got rid of the thing that, like, made it stand out and be unique. There appears to be nothing in here, or is there? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Yeah, I heard that in the recent, like, remake of it, they, like, changed how it actually plays. I haven't played the remake, so I can't comment on if they're positive changes or not, but I feel like it didn't need to be changed, perhaps polished at a stretch. But that also might just be because, like, I'm the kind of person who actually enjoyed the original gameplay. Sphere. Stay where I put you. This is why cubes are better. Cubes never disobey you like this. There we go. Just role-playing Sisyphus. Only 3 out of 5. But this Yoshi is yellow, so it's all okay. Hey, bonus challenge. All of a sudden, my performance is degrading. Scratch and match. Again. I wonder if this is like the memory games in Super Mario Brothers 3, where it's meant to be randomized, but it's actually on like a really small set. Incidentally, the randomization of the card matching game in Super Mario Brothers 3 is a really, really interesting thing to like look into if you're interested in like how games are designed. Because it's meant to be completely random, but there's a minor bug that takes what is supposed to be total randomness and leashes it down to like 8 possible outcomes. I see they wish for me to have eggs. Oh, that's kinda cool. Does that mean that all the spinning traps are behind the scenes being operated by slave labor? I like that. I'm learning Mario lore that I never thought I would learn. I always just took for granted that, stage hazards were hazardous. I never realized that they were powered by the working class. I see a cracked brick up there. What does that let me accomplish, if anything? Maybe I can get up there? And maybe I can make Rose Dinosaur. You always gotta make sure to rub your face against things just in case they're not actually there. I like how Yoshi's idle animation looks like he's doing a little dance. I still don't have the means to get into these things, whatever they are. Or as I'm aware. Oh, these are the Sparky guys. Haven't seen them in a while. That is a lot of money. Whoops. So I take it that it's red coins that are collectible and not coins in general. Screw you, Vaz. Thank you very much. Away with thee. Consume the Starmen. And that looks like a boss door from the first Mario World. Which I suppose would be chronologically the second. So, you're still on the baby side, Yoshi baby? Then get a load of this. Robotnik, hello? Ooh, iridescence. I like iridescence. Oh, he lorge. Suffering from success. And he's dead. Man just exploded to death live on camera. Part of me is a little bit disappointed that the colored Yoshis don't have their special powers from Mario World 1. But also that'd be a bit okay. There are very dangerous donut lifts in this stage. They will fall shortly after you stand on them, step lightly. I just tried to wall jump like it was Hollow Knight. I don't think you can wall jump in Yoshi's Island. I was gonna make a comment like, oh, auto-scrollers are the bane of my existence, but really, is there anybody that doesn't lose to auto-scrollers? Oh, exact same spot. Now, hold on a second, that looks like I actually can sort of wall jump. I can like hover, touch the wall, hover again. And auto-scroller is probably not the place to try that, but... Perhaps I should not be greedy on my first playthrough. I can be greedy when I'm going for score. Pardon me. No. I didn't even touch the controller there. The platform just slipped out from underneath me. Oh well. I shouldn't be greedy, she says. Follows up with going for every coin. Leaving aside that they don't have powers, I do think it's kind of cool how there's, like, different Yoshis in each stage. It really sells the concept that, like, they're all helping, it's not just one. My favorite Super Mario World Yoshi has to be the blue one. Unlimited Flight is just too good to pass up. Blue-purple one, exactly. Unfortunately, this particular blue-purple Yoshi is demonstrating that they are not capable of flight. But it's okay because they're trying their best. It's just that their best isn't good enough. The red coins are a slightly different shade of yellow. They're more like orange. You say it's super subtle, but now that I've noticed it, it seems pretty easy to spot for me. Here, take this, baby. Like a half dozen of my family members died getting it up this mountain. Oh, cool. Perfect marks, let's go. Hard to notice, the non-red ones are like monochrome, the red ones are like a gradient, where it's red at the bottom and then gold at the top. Like, not bright red, but you can definitely notice the gradient, like within the coin itself. Apparently, stilts are OP armor. Can I get them from behind? I tried. No, I can't. Also, yes, you got auto-modded for that one. You know, I would say that tonguing is the correct verb there. The fact that it has come to mean something else in the intervening decades is irrelevant. It's like these coins, the one on the far right is red. Like, you see how all the other ones are, like, bright yellow, and then this one in particular has a gradient where it's dark towards the bottom? Looks like I want to approach those from underneath. Step on exclamation marks fetches when you find them. Here you will find a secret entrance. Interesting. Morph into the mole tank here. Dig like mad to find the 2 red coins. Oh god, he actually just dissolves into a new form. That's horrifying. It's the one directly above me here. And the one on the right there. What? Oh, I see, I see. Okay, I was not at all prepared for that. Down the ground? At least part of it was that I straight up did not realize that I could just go straight up rather than having to jump. I noticed that there was like a thing behind the ring there, but it turned into like a coin. And 6, 7. Touch Fuzzy, get dizzy. I mean, I got a tail. Well, I guess I'm more fluffy than fuzzy. You did in fact miss a 6-7 score. The thought of like choosing not to replay a stage amuses me. Like imagine that like, you know, a couple of dozen Yoshis have died for the sake of like getting this kid safely home. And then one of them's just like, nah, not feeling it. I cannot consume these. Oh, interesting. I see now why they say touch fuzzy get dizzy. Yoshi's actually just on drugs, look at those eyes. Yoshi will run of their own volition, it looks like. Release me. Oh, this is a little bit laborious. I'm just trying to get eggs. Seems like the best way to not be affected by the dizziness is to be in the air. I spewed an egg underneath here. Yes, but also no. There we go. Ooh, Obsidian Yoshi. What happens if I pound the ground on the rope bridges? I'm not sure. I never tried it. Are you sure that there are other minigames? Because I'm not convinced. No, I got nothing. I think it's kind of cute though, how they've got like different scratch patterns. Oh, thank you for the hydration and the head pats. Salvo the Slime's Castle. Those two are red, those two aren't, these two are. First three here are red, last three here are red. Hit the block to the right with an egg and some platforms will flip. Get rotated platforms. You can also hit them with a Yoshi, it seems. Did I come up here too early? Yes, I did. I feel like those things are more dangerous when they're pointed down than they are when they're pointed up. Just going off of experience. Hi, rotation. None of those. Oh. was gonna say none of those are red coins. Mistakes appear to have been made. Oh no, Yoshi, the door is very, very slowly closing behind you. Oh, it's cute. Hi there, cute little Yoshi. Does baby Mario want to go to Bowser's castle? I'll take him there in a hurry. And it's dead. And it exploded to death. As did the key. Suddenly, Kingdom Hearts. I see that there were 2 secret stages there, I presume is what those were. Well, that exploded. Anyway, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. And low-key, this theme is driving me kind of insane. Visit Koopa and Paracoopa. One of you two owes the other a soda. Work out who among yourselves. Oh, I'm Super Baby Mario now. Okay. I feel like I could have capitalized on that one a little bit better. First, touch a superstar and become a powerful Mario. Hold left or right, you can run off a wall and across the ceiling. Hold B to float, hold Y to dash. Okay, I need to disregard the money and just go for the wall if I want to get the flower, I think. Powerful Mario is a weird name, but I'm on board with it. Oh wait, there's just another one down here. Yeah, apparently whenever you pick up a Power Star, you become Powerful Mario. Never punished. Puppy? This dog's name is Poochie. He is cute, isn't he? Hitch a ride. He runs in the direction that Yoshi faces. Thank you for the hydration. All 4 of these are red coins. Not gonna lie, menacing aura on that puppy. Suddenly, Tetris. And a final 2, just in case you thought they were sorry. That thing looked like an Earthbound character. Oh no. I pull off one of the slickest throws of my career, and then I fall down a pit. Oh, and now I gotta sit through an auto segment again. I've also got a key and no clue where to use it. I mean, true, I haven't hit the end of the level, but like, that doesn't change that I... Oh, hello. That doesn't change that I don't know where to use it. Is that a bomb? I was distracted by the literal bomb. It also seems that the Starmen are not inclined towards self-preservation. So if I do want to collect them at some point, I am going to have to escort them somewhere safe before releasing them. I mean, I'm not sure how happy they are if they choose to have with such certainty. Good enough. I'll settle for simply not dying. And not losing the child. What am I, a stork? Oh dear. Well, that was just rude is what that was. I'm back in the auto-scroller again. I'm not a fan of that trap, if only because I prefer things where, like, the only way to avoid them is not just to get caught and then, like, know in the future. Hello. Horses of Kamek really putting in work there. Oh no. I'm getting a little bit annoyed, but it's mostly because the checkpoint is directly before an auto-scroller. That was on me, I was trying to get the flower with an egg. That's why it was put in, what, to be annoying on purpose? Feels like a flimsy justification to me. Popping balloons. Pound the ground to pop balloons, find the correct one to win. Well, that was just rude is what that was. I got the super rare one and then lost because it was rigged. Truly the most Fox thing that could have happened. Slot machine, one up chance. A chance to earn extra lives. Press A to stop each tumbler. Now is this timed or is this RNG? I think it's timed. let's go gambling. Hit up with an egg and it will fly off in the direction the arrow currently points. Alright. I have also been seeing a lot of ads for gambling services. It makes me feel a little bit depressed because, like, it indicates that there are a lot of people in similar demographics to myself who clearly feel that gambling is their only way out of things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying so hard to capture that market. Though I've also seen a ton of ads for, like, LLM services, so it might just be your typical, we've got a ton of money and we want to make more shenanigans. Though I tend not to see that many ads in general. Rude. I basically only ever see, like, in-app ads. I never see them in, like, browsers. Catch a superstar and become powerful Mario. This is super. Hold on, this one's actually different. This is super. Dash with Y, float in the air, run up a wall. You are invincible. I have neither cable TV nor Spotify, so I can't comment. Only somebody small can go on from here. Yeah, cable TV is just straight up not worth any amount of money. And rude. Spotify as a company has financed some really, really shady things that I don't want to endorse, so... Even if I were particularly interested in the service, I wouldn't get it from them. Melon. how Yoshi feels about weaponizing his offspring. I mean, you actually see things like this in nature, where animals that have, like, ridiculously potent reproductive capabilities usually take a shotgun approach where they don't actually particularly care about the fate of any individual offspring. They're like, I'll just make 200 and, like, maybe one will survive to adulthood, and that's good enough for me. Yes, sometimes the babies are prey. I can't remember which species it is, but there's at least one species where, after mating, the female actually has to fight off the male because the male will instantly try to devour all the children. Alas, I have no eggs, so I cannot go in there. Can you be in it? You look kind of like a multi-mole. Its eyes, its eyes, and its a behavior pattern. I will say I do appreciate the lack of time limit. Incidentally, fun fact, when foxes have litters of kits, both parents, because foxes mate for life, both parents stick around and raise them for about a year, after which the children are adults and can go out and do their own thing. Throw an enemy or an egg into the tulip to receive some stars. To make it easier, throw upwards by holding up and then holding up when pressing Y. Did they mean A? Huh. I thought I could not get an egg into that from below. Today I learned. Instantly died to death. Who the heck is setting up a punji pit in Yoshi's Island of all places? Like, that's some war crime stuff right there. Yeah, no wonder Yoshi is so content to be a mount. It's like servitude is better than... Servitude is better than what I came from. There so happens to be a checkpoint there. If not for the pause every time I enter or leave one of those things, this would be reminding me a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like the 2D games, the early ones. I never did figure out what the lock button does. Wait, give that back. I still think it's kind of terrifying how Yoshi just melts into the mole form. You see, I never realized that the Super Nintendo was capable of graphics like this. I think the fanciest that I was used to was like Trinex from Zelda 3. Granted, I suppose that I've seen like Symphony of the Night gameplay. And that's pretty slick in places as well. Isn't Symphony of the Night a fun game? I'm pretty sure that there's a Super Nintendo Castlevania that's got like really nice graphics. It might not have been Symphony of the Night specifically, but... Dare I go for the thing that killed me last time? I think not. And then I chucked the baby, never wishing to see it again. The icon on this one concerns me. I'm not sure if it's like a blimp, a missile, or like a fireball. None of them bode well. What's Gusty taste like? Okay, a thought just entered my head, and I am not saying it out loud. Jigstraw, you're lewd. Oh, thank you for the head pats. I appreciate them very much. These types of walls may be destroyed by throwing eggs. Not that it'll save you from gravity. Not sure where the stars came from on that one. Okay, Yoshi just kind of dropped like a rock there. Did you see that? I was hitting the jump button. Must have been like some kind of like downwards momentum thing after dropping off the wall. Did I get stars for... Can't confirm no controller input display. I could turn it on if you wanted. Hold on. On controller. There you go. This is gonna take a while. I can sense it. There we go. Our Fox is only on fast here. I'm very much only on fast. The child craved blood, and for a brief time, tasted it. I like imagining that they're like peeking out, not seeing Yoshi, feeling safe. And then like the last thing that they feel is that sense of safety being violated. Grab a green watermelon and press Y to fire seeds. Exactly, really it's their own fault for getting devoured. Morph into the mole tank here, dig through the dirt wall. I would love to do that. That legitimately looks like the sort of animation you would see in a YouTube clip. Where, like, it's revealed that, like, King Harkinian was actually Robotnik all along. He just morphs from one form to the other. I may or may not have watched a couple of 16-year-old YouTube clips the other day. Yeah, I really thought I was going somewhere with that one. I was like, this thing's gonna take me on an adventure. It's gonna reveal secrets to me. And to be fair, with its help, I did find out what happens after you die. I got surprisingly far to the right there, not gonna lie. You know, this Peachy amp from Doom the Golden Souls, is that a ROM hack for Doom? I think what I'll do, when it's like time to call stream for the night, which is not right now, but it's kind of coming up, I think before I call it, I'm gonna quickly put in ActRaiser and let you listen to the Fillmore game. Because it sounds so much like this. I think there's 3 of them. There are way more Doom mods than that, I assure you. Okay, so key goes up there. If I can find it. Speaking of mods, a mod that has just been like living in my head rent-free ever since I saw it was the Hollow Knight Moth Mode mod, where it makes it so that you take damage if your feet are on the ground, but in exchange, your monarch wings can be used an infinite number of times. So you actually just have to like flutter through the levels. You're allowed to rest on benches, and I believe you're allowed to cling to walls, but you're not allowed to like put your feet on the ground. You were thinking light sources were magnetic? That would also be funny. It's also kind of fun because, like, in Hollow Knight, the moths are like a whole tribe that kind of have a lot of stuff going on. Like, realistically evaluating it, I feel like I wouldn't actually want to be a moth in that setting. It's like, oh no, my goddess is kind of a bitch. Pardon my French. I did it. $80 points, that's a passing grade in most public schools. Bigger boost for it. You're like, Ariel, you can't lick ghosts, and I'm just like... Why am I not allowed to have hobbies? We take those. I suspect that Rash hitting my eggs is like meant to be a thing here. Or perhaps not. Yep, sometimes your suspicions are proven wrong. I wonder if I can't hit a switch with an egg. I like how Yoshi's head squishes when it hits the ceiling like that. Where does this go? Enable the brain damage mod. You mean like where if you bonk, it actually causes damage? That could be fun. Can I rebound egg? Yeah. Can I rebound egg the big ghosts? I have no clue. Generally, though, boos are immune to anything that isn't a power star. I like the expression on the small one. They look innocent, like a child from Adventure Time. Mistakes were made. I had to go up and over. But, you know, mistakes are how we learn and grow. Especially when there's no time limit. You know, this very much does have the exact same vibe as the Super Mario World Ghost House. I can use the floor ceiling guys as part of a wrong warp. I'm not entirely certain how that would work. You don't know how Sweet Owners found it? Usually it's because somebody like me did something crazy, and then other people were like, how does that even happen? Boss fight. Oh yes, we have Baby Mario's twin brother at Bowser's Castle, but we're not handing him over to the likes of you. It'd be so funny if the twin was actually Wario and not Luigi. I think they should have kept the face the same size. Like, make just the body bigger. And they're dead. I like how turning that guy into a boss unironically made him way easier to kill than a normal Boo. Oh wait, no, I didn't want to go in. Shoot. How do I save my game in this game? Is it just automatic? Auto? Gotcha. Alright, I'm just gonna put on ActRaiser real quick. I'm not gonna play ActRaiser, I just want you to see, like, or hear, I should say, like, how the Fillmore theme sounds. Oh, thank you for the hydration. I'm pretty sure we hear the Fillmore theme early on. If it goes strictly into an action stage, then you'll have to look it up or something, I'm sorry. I might not be able to actually listen to the Fillmore theme. Also, I had this game when I was a child, and I could never actually figure out how to play it. All I knew is that sometimes I ended up in a side-scrolling stage. Okay, this isn't the Fillmore Town theme. Okay, whatever. We're gonna call it there for the night. I've actually played through this game as an adult. I very much am capable of beating it now. Anyway. So yeah, we're gonna call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. Me desperately trying to remember which day of the week it is. Yeah, next scheduled stream is on Friday. The game is going to be Fate Samurai Remnant. The next time that I'm playing Yoshi's Island in particular is going to be on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.